teams up to the burial ground. Unfortunately, some rowdy youths came and demanded that the coffin should be opened. The relatives themselves objected, including the health workers. But, they pushed their way through, and the coffin was opened. And the body was there. They saw the body. Then they insisted that because this was a very important man and a father to many, the body needed to be taken inside and properly dressed. But the health workers said, no, you cannot do this. They insisted. The coffin was taken inside. And then they go and take a photo of an empty coffin and photo shoot to show people that there was no body. There was a body. And I want to tell the population that to date, the relatives have apologized to the health workers in Bwera because they themselves are so angry at what the rowdy youth did in Kasese. Now, I want to appeal to the population. There is no burial teams that we have trained that will go ahead to bury an empty coffin. For what? First of all, it is time consuming, it is expensive, donning the protective wear and going to the burial ground. It is to support the families, and families need to know this. Once a body is already in a body bag, do not tamper with it. Number 2, let us follow the directives. Let's have only 20 people at the burial site. By the way, what we are worried about most at the burial site are the people who are congregating, not that body that is going down into the coffin. It can't cough anymore. It only has body fluids that may come out. But you who is congregating, shouting at the top of your voice, perhaps without a mask, you are the one going to spread infection.
Or at risk.
Yes, and then you become another victim. So people ought to know this.
Okay, how about the local remedies? Because I'm saying this because there's a scientist, I think Mbarara University of Science and Technology, who has come up with a herbal remedy called Covidex. It has really made people start talking a lot, but then he has also been vilified and in some places being praised. But what is the stand of the ministry or the government of Uganda in helping Ugandan scientists like this gentleman in Mbarara develop something that you never know that could be something that helps humanity?
Mr. Kamara, all our drugs come from herbs and plants, and that is where we start from. And we extremely appreciate such innovations that are coming up. But such innovations need to follow procedure to the dot, so that by the time it is given out to the public, we are sure that we are not putting anyone's life in danger. The scientist in Mbarara is a very innovative person, and this is not the first time he's coming up with, some of those herbal remedies. However, there were some mistakes made along the way. You don't go ahead to start advertising before you have had approval from a national drug authority, before you have tested the very same medicine on people. Because by the time he came out, he had only tested it in the laboratory. While it is a herb, let us do the science well and the research well. Nobody will object to it. His Excellency the President has set up a Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovations because he values such innovations and such research that is being carried out on locally available substances in the country. You may be aware that there is an ongoing research also on another item that is being carried out by Dr. Musenero and team. That is the same, herbal products that we are looking at. So we want to encourage many other scientists to come up and carry out such, research. His Excellency the President has been providing money for this, and Ministry of Science and Technology has been supporting, including the research fund that is provided to Makerere University for such innovations.
I've heard some scientists say that really one of the best ways in the fight against COVID is to prepare ourselves in terms of the nutrition. the diet. And it appears the ministry has just not been loud enough in telling us the benefits that are going to come from the nutritional value of the food that we eat. That if we eat right, somehow, probably, that is going to find us better.
I think, Mr. Kamara, we talked a little too loud. Not that we didn't, we talked too loud, and that is why people consumed a lot of vitamin C, they consumed all the fruits. Now they've gone on to mix ginger, to mix it with lemon, to mix it with pepper, and so on. We may end up with some people getting very bad ulcers. However, we have been saying there are certain foods that are just good. We've talked about foods that contain vitamin D. We do give vitamin D supplements to people with COVID. We've been talking about foods that contain zinc. We do give zinc supplements to people with COVID. We've been talking about fruits because they have antioxidants, including vegetables, that will help boost immunity. But that does not mean we should not eat other foods, because other foods also provide valuable substances that we need in our body. Therefore, it is always good to focus on nutrition and ensure that we are healthy, but not go beyond and cause yourself a little bit of pain. It is
Are you
not
aware
necessary.
that actually marijuana now is on the menu?
I heard so. I am yet to prove, because I am told some people are now mixing ginger with pepper, with lemon and marijuana. I am yet to prove that, but I have heard the
Okay,
rumors.
let me open the lines now. I know many of you have been trying to get in touch, and I thought I should ask those questions to the minister. So I have a caller online. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Kamara.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Confidence from Natete.
Natete, go right ahead, sir.
You know, the COVID these days. Good evening, doctor.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
know,
And you?
You know, these days COVID is very real.
It's real.
But the problem we have, last time, the MPs for NRA, they starting campaign. People, they think there is no COVID. They starting their campaign for. But now, COVID is very real. For us here in Ghetto, we just thinking, yeah, you know, they are passing their deals. We see the clips on YouTube, on WhatsApp, in Kasese, there are people, they are buying an empty, what? Empty case.
But that has been explained, sir.
So we need, at least we need the president of Ghetto, not the President Museveni, at least like Bobby Wine came and.
Okay, unfortunately your line dropped, but you have made your point. You need, I think, the president of the Ghetto, like you said, maybe also to come and add on his voice. I suppose that's what you wanted to say. We have another call online. Hello. Hello?
Good evening, Kamara.
Yes, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Maganda Michael, calling from Tambala.
You're on air, Mr. Maganda Michael.
My question goes to the minister.
Okay.
On this issue of teachers vaccination.
Yes.
Madam Minister, vaccinating one teacher 80 students. One teacher can affect 80 students, but 80 students cannot affect each other. Secondly,
I missed that question.
Could you, Mr. Maganda, can you repeat that question?
I asked a question about teachers vaccination. Like a teacher
Yes.
must be vaccinated. The students are not vaccinated. Now, one teacher can infect 80 students in a classroom with the coronavirus. But 80 students cannot infect each other. That is not the meaning according to me. Secondly, on that national COVID committee, it is just the views of online ordinary, this country.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Our caller from Butambala, thank you so much. I also will be asking the minister on whether she can be able to tell us how many people can one person potentially infect. We have another call online. Hello.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
You're talking to Peter.
Peter, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Kitezi.
From Kitezi. Peter from Kitezi, you're on air, sir.
Yes, one first up the minister. I wish all ministers in Uganda, like the change, Uganda would have got confidence in all of ministers. But my question is one, with regard on vaccination. Why should someone consent before vaccinating? It is the first time in my life I've had someone consent on vaccination.
Yeah.
And that would have issue, and that's why most are not going for vaccination because of consenting first. I think they are not sure of the vaccine that they are giving to us.
I want to thank you. I think that's a very good question. Thank you so much for remembering that and asking it. The minister will respond. I'm going to take maybe 2 more or 3 so that the minister will be answering you at once, and then as we conclude this discussion. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Yes, Kamara, good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name is calling from Chuatre.
I missed the name, sir.
Kasuli Philip calling from Chuatre.
Oh, Kasuli Philip in Kuatule. You're on air, sir.
Yes, my question is, what does Dr. Ruth Aceng say about rather vaccinating people without testing them first? Because we've had complaints that when you vaccinate people without testing, then the vaccine basically brings complications, and it is one of the reasons why you have.
Thank you, Philip. Okay, your question has also been noted, and let me take another caller online, and then I have a caller. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Hon Aceng from
I'm sorry, your line is not very clear. Maybe can I ask again, what's your name and where are you calling from? Oh, it's a pity. We have lost that line to our caller. Let me try to pick another one, and that will be the last. Hello?
Good evening, Mr. Kamara.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Kamtunje, and I'm calling from Ntinda.
Kamtunje in Ntinda. You are on air, you're loud and you're clear.
Thank you for hosting Dr. Ruth Aceng. My question is, she did mention that the government is not able to do total lockdown this time because we needed to be able to plan for better other patients with other chronic diseases like TB, like HIV and cancer. And I remember we had our first case of COVID last year around March in 2020. Then the government started planning then. Even Ugandans contributed money towards the fight against COVID. I am very surprised that 1.5 years later, still the government hasn't planned yet to save Ugandans. What does Dr. Aceng, Minister Disgine, say about this? Thank you, Mr. Kamara.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, I can see a number of you are trying to get to the minister, but unfortunately, it's not that I don't want you to speak. It's a question of time. So please bear with me, and we stop there. So the minister responds to the questions that have been given, and then she'll be making her concluding remarks. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamara, and allow me to appreciate those who have asked questions. This just tells me that you have been listening to our program and you've been very alert. I'll start with the first question. Indeed, COVID is real. Even in 2020, in early 2020, COVID was real. It is only that many people did not appreciate, like you said, many people associated it with politics. But COVID should not be associated with politics at all. It is a global pandemic, and it is here with us. Many of the questions were, around vaccination. And so allow me to talk a little bit about vaccination. And I'll begin from the point that when you're going to get vaccinated, should you first test? No. You don't need to test to get vaccinated. You go in and get your vaccine. If you are already symptomatic, you already have symptoms, even when we are vaccinating children, we tell parents, if your child already has a fever, has this, don't come for vaccination. Because a vaccine will induce your body to start producing antibodies to fight against a disease. So you don't go to get vaccinated when you're sick. But when you are not sick, you go and you get vaccinated. Getting vaccinated will not give you COVID, because the vaccines we are using are not live viruses. They are not even live attenuated viruses. They are pieces or particles of the viruses. So there is no need to test before. Now, there are people who already got COVID and may want to get vaccinated. Yes. Should they get vaccinated? Yes. Because science has shown that when you get an infection, because the antibodies are not specific, they begin to wear off. So when you get your vaccine, it will stimulate your body to produce specific antibodies to COVID. And you only have to test negative after the infection and ensure that you are fit and strong. Then you go and get vaccinated. Now, it is true that we started vaccinating teachers and not the students. Why? Because many of our teachers are elderly. There are also some that are younger. Now, from science before, it was very clear that the elderly succumb faster to infection than the younger people. Although now with the variant, the numbers are beginning to balance out. But again, it is still very important to protect the elderly. And that is why we said vaccinate the teachers first. 2, because from research, we had not yet been informed whether our children should be vaccinated. And we've been clearly saying that the vaccine can only be given to those 18 years and above. Up to now, research is still ongoing. I mentioned earlier that it is only Pfizer that is being given to children 12 years to 17 years. So research is still ongoing. It is not that we don't want to vaccinate children. We want to. But let the vaccine be made available. Now, why should we consent to vaccination? Mr. Kamara, these vaccines were made pretty fast. Not like the other traditional vaccines, which take, a long time to be made, for research to be carried out, and so on and so forth. 2, you're very much aware that industries do not want to lose. And because they are aware that there are certain very rare side effects that may occur, they require our governments to sign indemnification agreements. That should something go wrong, then they are not going to be held responsible. Because if that happened, we would, siphon money out of such industries. But the vaccines have been tested on people. The vaccines have been evaluated by WHO, and they have been passed for emergency use. Emergency use. Emergency use means even as we are using, we are still continuing to evaluate the vaccines. Therefore, it is only wise that we sign consent forms that, yes, I have understood about the vaccines. I know the benefits outweigh the risks of COVID, so I will take the vaccine. So it is not a force.
Okay.
And that is why we said vaccination is voluntary.
Okay.
However, in some cases, we are saying, can we make vaccination mandatory, really to save people? Mr. Kamara, you asked a question that how many people can one person infect? A good number. Just imagine I interact with you. You will go and interact with some other person. Those will also bring on board 2 people. In a very short time, it will be 37 people, 48 people, and the number continues. So we need to be very careful when it comes to such. Lastly, is about the lockdown. Let me state this very clearly. I did not say government is not able to carry out a lockdown at this time. And I want to be very clear. I have not said there will be no lockdown. What I have said is that as we, continue with observing how the epidemic is evolving, we are also making plans for the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario may come. It may not come right now, but it will eventually come. So we all need to work very carefully. That is why His Excellency started by saying, can we ban inter-district movements? Because COVID moves by transport. The biggest challenging thing in a COVID pandemic is transport. Public transport, private transport, the buses and the vehicles. And then, of course, transport on our 2x2, because it takes me from my home to the next home. That is how COVID moves. And it is necessary to plan. In every intervention, you must plan. If this happens, what will I do here? If this happens, what will I do here? That needs to be in place. You just don't wake up one day and say, lockdown. Okay, if you wake up one day and say lockdown, how will your pregnant mother get to the facility? How will it happen? So somebody is saying, didn't government plan for this? Yes. But we are over 45 million people. There is a lot that government has done to put systems in place. Government cannot feed everybody. People need food. There are those who live hand to mouth. So all that needs to be put into context and thought about.
All right.
But I just want to prepare the population. Let us first implement the standard operating procedures, follow them, space ourselves, and wait for us to come out together with the chair of the National Task Force, who is His Excellency the President, leading the fight of this pandemic.
So, and when are we likely to have the peak of this wave?
Mr. Kamara, I cannot for sure say, but what I can tell you is that every day the infections increase. And so we have a very steep climb up of this wave. It is absolutely steep. But you and me can turn it around, and we reach the peak and it starts coming down if we implement the cheap measures.
So it is likely to get worse before it even gets better?
Absolutely right.
All right, I want to thank you, all of you who have been watching this program, and all of you who have sent in your questions via telephone. I know Moi Daniel in Lira, you also sent a question, but on vaccine, it has been handled very well by the minister. I also got another question, but not related to the COVID. You say, somebody is saying it is reported that some successful researchers and innovators in herbal medicine that work, e.g. drugs for diabetes, have been witch hunted by big pharmacies. How do you reassure Ugandans that they should go ahead and innovate for COVID?
Well, when you start your innovation, it is you and you alone who knows what it is. So you need to know how to protect your information and eventually get it patented.
All right.
Yeah.
Honorable Minister Designate, I want to thank you so much for your time, but most of all, I want to thank you so much for your insights. And thank you because you are the general who is in the field fighting this disease, even though it is taking all of us. Because like you said, it's in our hands. I want to thank you for the time. Fellow Ugandans, like the Minister said, the fight is in our hands. Every individual Ugandan has a responsibility to observe the SOPs. So if we carry out what has been told to us by the scientists, by the experts, maybe we can turn around this. Probably we are not really facing Armageddon or apocalypse, but if we do SOPs, and the minister has said COVID does not move, we move it. So let's find a way of how we can stop the movements, and in that way we can also stop the disease. Let us keep hope alive. Good night, and God bless Uganda.